leaky bucket. Okay, before explaining what exactly this leaky bucket is, you have to understand few more things. Okay, the first thing is congestion. What is congestion generally? Or what is it congestion means? Anyone? What is the general meaning of this congestion? Yes. No one? Yes. What is congestion?
Blockage or barricade.
Huh? Bit louder.
Blockage or barricade.
Blockage or barricade. Okay. Any other answer? See, congestion is nothing but the traffic. In Bangalore, we face this problem, isn't it? Traffic. Why traffic happens? When there is more number of vehicles on road, right? So similarly, we face traffic problem in network also. So since it is a very important issue, this congestion handling, it's a very important concern with respect to network, and it should be solved at any cost. Okay, so the congestion is nothing but a traffic in the network. And one more thing is, do you know which layer in the network is responsible for congestion control?
Transport layer.
Yes, exactly. Good. This transport layer is responsible for congestion control. So, in this semester, you are going to study the transport layer techniques in module 2. Okay. So, there you will study the different techniques used for this congestion control. Okay. In detail, you are going to study. But as of now, you do remember this congestion control is done at the transport layer in the network. Okay. Now, here, to control this congestion, there are two approaches basically. One is open loop control and the second one is closed loop control. Okay. This open loop control is called as proactive approach. This is called as proactive approach. Why? Because this approach, actually open loop control, tries to avoid the congestion. That means it tries to prevent the congestion. Okay, that's why it is called as proactive approach. In detail, we'll see in the next slide. Okay. Next, the second approach is closed loop approach. Closed loop control. This we call it as a reactive approach. Why? Because see, once there is a congestion in the network, okay, if this approach is followed, then it finds a solution for the same, and it solves the congestion problem. Here, open loop we call it as proactive approach. Closed loop we call it as reactive approach. Proactive approach, why? Because it avoids the congestion or prevents the congestion from happening in the network. Whereas closed loop, whenever there is a congestion in the network, this approach finds a solution for it and solves the congestion problem in the network. Okay, so these are the two methods that is followed for control the congestion. Okay, is this clear to everyone? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll see one by one in detail. Closed loop control. Let's start with the closed loop control. Okay, because leaky bucket comes in open loop control. So that's why first I'll take up closed loop approach. See, again in this approach, we have two types. One is explicit feedback based mechanism, and the second one is implicit feedback based mechanism. Okay, explicit and implicit. So before discussing in detail about these two, first we'll see what exactly the feedback is. Okay, so the feedback, the word feedback, as say you get some response from the for any action, right? So this feedback is you get it from the network. That means network will inform the sender once there is a congestion. Okay, so that is informing the sender from the network for the occurrence of congestion is nothing but the feedback. Okay, so that is all about the feedback. Let's see this implicit feedback based communication. I'll come to this later. Okay, implicit feedback based mechanism here. No messages or the no information will be sent explicitly to the sender here about the congestion. Okay, so now consider I will send one packet to the network. I mean, I'll start transmitting the data over the network. Okay, if I didn't get any acknowledgement, then I will assume that there is a network issue. I'll repeat. See, I will send one packet over the network. I'll wait for some time to get the acknowledgement from the network saying that the particular node has received the packet. If I didn't receive the acknowledgement within a specified time, then I will assume that there is a network issue. That means no feedback will be received from the network. Okay, based on this scenario, I will assume that there is some problem in the network. That's why my packets has been dropped. Okay, so assuming this problem, I mean there is a network issue, I will try to rectify that problem. Okay, this is nothing but the implicit feedback where you don't get feedback from the network about the congestion occurrence. Okay, that is about implicit feedback. Any doubts till now? Yes?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. Explicit feedback. Now you can analyze this, right? Explicit feedback is nothing but you will get information from the network about the congestion occurrence. That means the sender will get the information from the network about the congestion occurrence. That is all about explicit feedback based mechanism. Okay. The next is open loop control. See, in this, I said this is called as proactive, right? Proactive approach, where the approaches will try to avoid the congestion or prevent the congestion. As you know, prevention is better than cure, right? So that's why here, this is what? Open loop control. Again, it has three types: adaptive forwarding, policing algorithm, and the last one is traffic shaping. Okay, we'll see each in the next slide. Okay, let me start with adaptive forwarding. See, in adaptive forwarding approach, consider I will make a small agreement with the receiver. See, I'm considering this example. I will make a small agreement with the receiver that I will send around 100 MB of data. Okay, this is the agreement between sender and the receiver. Okay, I'm the sender and I'm making this agreement with the receiver that I'll be sending around 100 MB of data. So I'll ask, shall I send this data? Okay, then the receiver says, I don't have so much space now. So as of now, you send only 1 MB of data. Okay, and you wait for my acknowledgement. This is what the receiver says. As of now, I don't have much space. So you just send me 1 MB of data and wait for my acknowledgement. Okay, if you receive my acknowledgement, then you send the second MB of data. This is what the agreement between sender and the receiver. So this is called as adaptive forwarding. Okay, with this agreement, I will adjust my flow of data. Okay, or you can say the sending rate of data. Okay, so this, as I said, this is nothing but the adaptive forwarding. This approach is followed to avoid the congestion to some extent, or some amount of congestion can be avoided if this method is followed. Okay, now the question is where congestion may happen, right? What are the different cases? So that may be your question. So let's see. Congestion can occur at any point in the network. Okay, so it may be at the cable. Okay, so let's consider this. When multiple users start sending the data, then there may be congestion, right? If 100 users start sending the data to one router at a time, obviously there is a congestion, isn't it? So in nowadays, I mean in current situation, if cables are used in the network, it doesn't happen. I mean there is no much congestion because we have a dedicated cables. Okay, so dedicated point to point connections are made in the current scenarios. Okay, but as for the discussion, you can see you may find the network at the cable connection as well. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is that congestion may occur at the intermediate nodes as well. So intermediate nodes can be another computer node, or you can say it may be a router, right? So let's consider I send a request to a Google server. Say I'm searching online Java compiler. So this is my request that will be sent to the Google server when I make the search in the uh, Google. Okay. So when I send this data or my request to the Google server, directly it won't go to the Google server, right? It has to pass through many routers or intermediate nodes, isn't it? Before reaching the Google server, isn't it? So my request has to pass through many routers or intermediate nodes before before reaching the Google server. But what may happen, the whatever the intermediate nodes are present in this connection, okay, they may be busy in processing some other user's request. Okay, it may be busy in processing some other user's request, because Google, n number of users are using Google at once, isn't it? So consider the routers or the intermediate nodes are busy in processing other users requests. So what happens, my request will be in the waiting state at the buffer, and you will be know that each and every node in the network will have a buffer, isn't it? So what happens when I send the request, if particular node, intermediate node or a router is busy, then what happens, my request will be waiting at the buffer of the intermediate node. If buffer is not full, okay, as I said, there may be n number of requests for the Google, isn't it? So if the buffer size of the node is not full, then my request will be waiting in the buffer. If buffer is full, then what happens? Obviously, my request has to be dropped off, right? Why? Because this size is not, I mean, space is not available to store my request, right? So that's why there may be also congestion. So this is the second point where we find congestion, okay? And the third point is what, congestion may occur, or the third scenario I can say, congestion may also occur at the receiver side. If Google server, as I'm discussing the example with respect to Google server, if Google server is busy, I mean no space to take my request, then obviously I can say there is a congestion, right? So these are the different scenarios. You may find many other scenarios where congestion may happen. So I have just listed few of it. Okay, so this is all about the congestion. So according to adaptive forwarding, it works based on the agreement that is made between the sender and the receiver. Okay, so as and when there is a space at the receiver side, you can increase your sending data rate. Okay, so that is all about adaptive forwarding. Next we'll see the policing algorithm. Okay, so let's consider the previous example only. Like I have agreed that I'll be sending 1 MB of data at a given point of time, right? That is the agreement made between sender and the receiver. But what if I send more than 1 MB of data? That means consider I'll send 5 MB of data. What happens? Obviously, it not only affects my data transmission, but it also affects other transmission as well, right? So it may lead to what? It may lead to congestion again. It affects my transmission, other users transmission. Maybe congestion may occur at the intermediate node or at the receiver node. So if I send if I send more data other than the agreement that is made between the sender and the receiver. So some monitor approach or a method should be there to monitor this flow of data, isn't it? So such approach or the algorithm which monitors this effect is nothing but the policing algorithm. Am I clear to everyone? Are you all following whatever I'm explaining?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts you can ask me there only, okay?
Ma'am, please be a little slower, ma'am.
Okay, which part you didn't follow? I can explain it again. Am I fast? Yes? Am I fast? Please, come on, you have to reply me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you understood what is adaptive forwarding? The one who answered now?
Yes, ma'am, but not very clearly.
Which one? Adaptive forwarding.
Adaptive. Yes, ma'am.
You want me to repeat it?
Yes, ma'am. Just the last part which you told about this adaptive.
See, adaptive forwarding actually works based on the agreement. See, adaptive forwarding, why we are using to avoid the congestion in the network, isn't it? So that's why uh, between the sender and the receiver, there will be an agreement. Like as I consider this example, I will start sending, I want to send 100 MB of data, say 100 packets of data I want to send. So I will ask the receiver that may I send this 100 packets of data. Okay, so at the place, I don't have so much space with me data as of now. Okay, so the sender and receiver agreed upon this agreement. Okay, so what I will do, I will send one packet of data. The receiver said that if you receive my acknowledgement for this one packet of data, okay, then you send the next packet of data. The second MB of data. Why this is following? Because to avoid the congestion. See, if we flood n number of packets into the network at a given point of time, there may be congestion, right? So that's why to avoid this, the rate of data that sender wants to send will be increased slowly, looking at the congestion occurrence. Okay, so based on the agreement, the sender will send the data to the receiver. Okay, he will increase the rate of data rate, sending data rate only if he receives the acknowledgement of the previous amount of data. If he receives the acknowledgement from the receiver, like receiver says that, yeah, I have received this message. If the sender receives that acknowledgement, then the sender will send the next MB of data. Okay, is this clear? This is
Yes, ma'am.
adaptive forwarding. So the next thing is policing algorithm. As I said, I made an agreement with the receiver that I'll be sending 1 MB of data at this point of time, isn't it? What if I send 5 MB of data? It may lead to congestion in the network, isn't it? So to monitor this, if I agreed for 1 MB of data, then at this particular second, I have to send only 1 MB of data. Okay, so there should be some approach or algorithm to monitor this. So algorithm which monitors this flow of data according to the agreement is called as policing algorithm. That is the second algorithm in open loop control. Is this clear now, policing algorithm?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We shall move to the last one. here the leaky bucket program comes. Traffic shaping. Okay, this is the method where you can find leaky bucket algorithm. So now, before starting this traffic shaping, let me ask you the question: why there is traffic signals in the road? Yes.
To control the traffic.
Yes, to regulate the flow of vehicles on the road, right? Yes, exactly. In the same way, here we fall if there is unregulated flow of data in the network to regulate the flow of network so that there should not be any congestion. Okay, to do this, we follow a method called traffic shaping. Okay, I hope you understood the explanation. What is traffic shaping? Yes? Traffic shaping is nothing but regulate the flow of data so that there should not be any congestion. That means you can avoid the congestion. Let me consider another example with respect to our college. Okay, consider there are many labs in our college where say 300, 400 computers are there, right? So all these computers, all the faculties as well as students use these computers, right? And we try to access internet. What does it mean? We are trying to send the data, right? We are, if you are, 1 second. If you are accessing internet with the systems that is there in our lab, okay, we are trying to send the data. I mean, we are sending data to the particular server. And in our college, you know, there is one router in the ground floor. Have you seen that in the ground floor? Have you seen it? It's opposite to the ground floor lab 121 or 1020 lab. Opposite to that, one room is there. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what my point is, whatever the systems that we are using in our lab, when we access the internet, we try to send the data, right, to the server. So this data should pass through the router that is there in the ground floor. So one router there in our college. So whatever, in whichever system you are accessing the data, that data has to pass through this router which is there in the ground floor. Okay. So now consider there are 4 systems are there in a college. Okay. At once, at this particular point of time, all 400 computers start sending the data to this router that is there in the ground floor. What happens? 400 computers are trying to send the data. So that means obviously congestion occurs at the router, isn't it? Yes. And the data that flows from each computer to the router is not in a regulated flow, right? So consider system 1 sends the data like 100 packets per second. System 2 sends the data 2 packets per second, like that. That means there is unregulated data flow. Okay. So what happens here? The data may receive whatever the request that is comes from each and every system in the college. What is the duty of the router? Router has to regulate this traffic. Okay, so that is the duty of the router, isn't it? It has to regulate the traffic, which means a checkpoint is set at the router where only few packets are sent out to the network. Let's consider this example. You may understand it better. Okay, let's consider here. Later, again, I'll consider this diagram. Consider there are n number of systems are there, and each system sends different data rate. Unregulated flow of data. You can see here, it's not regulated. As I said, one system may send 100 packets per second. Another system may send 10 packets per second, and ith system may send 1000 packets per second. Okay, the flow of data, consider this is a router. Flow of data to this router is in unregulated form. Okay, but at the router, the flow of data to the another network should be regulated. So how it is regulated? We'll see. This regulation policy is nothing but the leaky bucket, which shapes the traffic, That is why it is called as leaky bucket traffic shaping algorithm. What it does, see how many packets this router can store based on the buffer size, right? Based on the buffer size, it can store the data that flows from many users. Once the buffer is full, the packets will be dropped off, isn't it? So at the router, the leaky bucket algorithm is implemented, which helps to regulate the flow of data packets to the next connection. Okay, let's see another example here. Consider this is a bucket and this is a tap where you're filling water to this bucket. How much water you can fill this? How much water you can fill into this bucket till it till it reaches its final point, right? After that, what happens? It start overflowing, isn't it? Now consider there is a hole at the bottom of this bucket. Okay, to control this overflow of water, what is done here? A small hole is made at the bottom of the bucket. Okay, what happens when you made a hole at the bottom? Water start dripping out, right? And this will be in a fixed rate, and this rate will be depends on the size of the hole that you made to this bucket, isn't it? So to control the dropping of packets here, dropping of water, overflowing the water, to control this, what we will do, we make a hole here so that water can flow out here at the fixed rate. Okay, so this is used to avoid, basically it is used to avoid the congestion in the network. In turn, it shapes the traffic in the network. I hope this point is clear to everyone. What does this leaky bucket does? Here, leaky bucket algorithm is implemented, which regulates the unregulated flow of data to the regulated flow. Okay, so in this way, the traffic can be avoided in the network. Is this clear to everyone? What is open loop, closed loop, adaptive, policing, traffic shaping, and all that? Is it clear to everyone? If so, we can move to the coding part. No answer? Bit louder, I'm not able to hear. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll move to the coding part then. I have sent the document of this leaky bucket to your, in Google Classroom. You just check it out, okay? So next. Okay. Before this, let's start with this. So, I'm sorry. Let's consider this is a bucket. Okay. So while designing, you have to read the bucket size from the user. Okay. Let me assume this bucket size is 10. See, you're going to read this value, the size of the bucket from the user. You're asking user enter it from the input device. Okay. Now assume that the flow of unregulated data here, the number of packets that are sending to this bucket at a given point of time is 50. Okay. And now, as per the leaky bucket explanation, I'm supposed to make a hole here so that there should not be overflow of this packets, isn't it? So I'll call that as the output rate. This is output rate. I mean the rate at which the packet should flow to the next connection, that you have to set, and you have to read it from the user only. Okay, let me set it as 4. Okay, now the size, what is the size of this bucket? It is 10. Okay, at a given point of time, how many packets are flowing into this bucket? That is 50. What is the output rate for this? It is 4. Okay, so what happens, since the size of the bucket is only 10, it can accommodate only 10 packets here. Okay, the rest all, 50 minus 10 is how much? 40. This 40 will be dropped off. Okay, and why? Because there is no space to accommodate this 40 more packets, isn't it? And output rate is what? 4. How many packets can be sent out from this bucket? 4, right? Because that is the output rate we have set here, right? So what is the left out packets in this bucket now? 10 minus 4. How many packets left out?
6.
Okay. Is this visible? I'm doing calculation in Paint. Yes?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, 1 second then. Oh, I forgot to share this. 1 second. Okay, let me take a new one. Okay. Consider this is the packet. Okay. The size of the packet is 10 now. Sorry, size of the bucket is 10. Consider this is a bucket and size of it is 10. Okay. And the output rate, that is what we started in the leaky bucket, right? We make a hole at the bottom of this bucket to ensure or to reduce the congestion, right? So now consider at given point of time, there are 50 packets, okay, which flows into the bucket. Since the size of the bucket is only 10, it can accommodate only 10 packets, and rest all, 50 minus 10 is what? 40. 40 packets will be dropped off. Okay, you can't accommodate 40 packets, right? Because the size is only 10. Now, what is the output rate set here? Let me take it as 4. So, from this 4, if bucket sends 4 packets to the next connection, how many packets will be left out in the bucket? 10 minus 6 is, sorry, 10 minus 4 is 6. So, after sending 4 packets, the left out packets in the bucket is 6. Okay, are you able to follow this? Is this work visible to you? I mean, whatever I'm drawing in the Paint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 10 minus 4 is 6. So since the output rate is 4, the left out packets in the bucket is 6. Okay, next consider at the next second, again, there is 30 packets which flows into this, into the same bucket. What happens? How many packets can be accommodated here now? Anyone?
4.
Yes? Yes, it is 4. Why? Why? Because already 6 packets are there in the bucket. The maximum size of the bucket is what? 10, right? So already 6 packets are there. How many more packets you can accommodate? Only 4, right? So 30 minus 4 is what? 26. These packets will be dropped off. Okay, so now you may be wondering, so many packets are dropping off. What is the point of using this algorithm, isn't it? So there is a concept called flow control, which helps, not to drop all these packets, which you will study in your theory subject. As of now, I can't take up that. Anyways, you're going to study in the theory. So as of now, you just remember the rest packets will be dropped out. According to the bucket size, the packets will be packets will enter the bucket. Okay, and based on the output rate, the packets will be sent out. So this is the simple working of leaky bucket algorithm. Is it clear to everyone? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go to the coding part then. First, I want you to check out what this output first. Is this visible output screen? I mean, the Word document, is it visible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, consider this is the way I want to see the output. Okay, well, before this, let me start with this. First, you have to read, I mean, you should know what should be the bucket size. Okay, that's why you have to take that from the user. Let me consider it as 10. Okay, and what should be the output rate? You have to set this, right? And let it be 4 here. You're going to read it from the keyboard, I mean, from the user. Okay, next, enter the number of seconds you want to simulate. I mean, that see how leaky bucket works for more trials. That's why you are setting that value as well, and you are taking it from the user. I hope you understood. I mean, how many number of seconds you want to simulate this leaky bucket. That value you should take it from the user. So all these three you should read it from the keyboard, or you have to take it from the user. Okay, and at last I want to print the output in this format. I mean, the seconds, I mean, the first simulation, I mean, at a first second, what are the packets received? Okay, what are the packets sent? What are the packets left in the bucket? And what are the packets dropped? So in this way, I want to see the output. So obviously, simulation starts from the first second. Okay, at first second, consider 90 packets are received from the user. What is the output rate set here? 4, isn't it? That's why packet sent out of the bucket is 4 now. Okay, and then how many packets will be left at the bucket? At second one, obviously it is 6. Why 6? The size of the bucket is only 10. If you send out of 10, if you sent out 4, you will be left with 6, isn't it? And the last one is how many packets were dropped? 90 minus 10 is what? 80. So in this way, I want to see the output. So let's see the coding part. You all are familiar with Java programming, right? You have executed, I mean, you have studied ADA lab using Java only, isn't it? It's visible, right? Okay. So here, you have to import few packages: language, input, output, scanner for the input, output function. And one more extra package I'm importing here under util is random function. Why I'm using this random function? See, you can see in the output, all these values, I mean, the number of packets received is generated randomly. Okay, we are not reading it from the user. We are generating it randomly. To generate these packets, I'm using random package here. Okay, let's start from main function. There's all variables declared and array required here. First, we'll start with the bucket size. Ask the user to enter the bucket size. That is assigned to, name is given as B size here. And the next, enter the output rate, that is O rate is taken here. And also number of seconds you want to simulate, that is N second. Okay, these are the 3 input. You have to take it from the user. And what is the next step? Here I'm using random function where rand object is created. Okay, so I'm using for loop here and it starts from 0 to n sec. N sec is nothing but n value. Till how many seconds you want to simulate this leaky bucket, that you have to mention here. And I'm using an array called packet of I where the randomly generated packets will be stored. Here you can see here, I'm using random function to generate the random numbers. See here, I have written 9 here. So it ranges from 0 to 9. See, this is extra that I've added to the code. So you can simply write rand.next int of 9, or you can write 990 or any value. You need not to write +1 into 10. Okay, so it's left to you. Why I have written 1? See, since it is a random generation, you may end up with the value 0. Okay, so for that you may not find any output there. That's why I have added 1 here +1 in the case if you get 0. So to avoid such cases, I've added 1 here and multiplied by 10. I want the packets received in the multiples of 10. That's why I multiplied it with 10 value. Okay, so if this is calculated, then obviously you will get multiples of 10 values as a packets received, and all those stored at the array packet of I. Okay, next, as you saw in the output, I want to print the output in this form: the seconds, packet received, packet sent, packet left, and packet dropped. Okay, let's start the calculation part. Here I'm using for loop. For loop here, starting from 0 till where? Till how many seconds you want to simulate this? That is n, from 0 to n sec. Okay, now the first value in the packet I. See here, the first value in the output, what we have considered, it is 90, isn't it? So let's consider from that value. Let's consider I is equal to 0. That means the first value in packet of I, that is 90. 90 is considered as P remain first. So what value do we have in P remain now? It is 90. Let me consider here. Is it visible to everyone? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Initially, the first value is 90 here. 90. That is assigned to P remain. Now, check this packet received with the bucket size. Is it greater than bucket size? I have given it as 10. Obviously, it is greater, isn't it? Find out how many packets you're going to drop off. That is P remain minus bucket size. P remain is 90. Bucket size is 10. That means the dropped packets are 80 here. Okay. So now the P remain will take the value of bucket size. What is bucket size here? 10, right? Yes or no? Bucket size is 10. Now the new value for P remain is 10. Fine. And I'm printing that. What is I value here? See in the output, you can see, is the paint ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, one ನಿಮಿಷ. Not this one second. Yeah. See here, I forgot to share this screen. See, the iteration starts from 0 to n sec here. For first iteration, packet of 9i is 0 is 90, right? In the output we have seen, we are checking that, this is assigned with p remain, and then we are checking 90 with bucket size. P remain with bucket size. Is it greater? Yes, it is. Then go ahead. Now, you have to find out what is the packets dropped here. So P remain is 90 minus bucket size is 10. So that comes to 80 packets. 80 packets are dropped out. Now the P remain values changes. How? We are just assigning the bucket size to the P remain here. So what will be the value of P remain now? It is 10. I'm printing that. I represents what? Starting iteration from 0, right? So I'm just adding 1 to that. That means 0 to 1 is what? The first simulation. You can see in the output, simulation started from 1 seconds, 1, right? So for that, it is done here. Okay, I plus 1. Next, I'm printing packet of 5. How many packets are received? 90. That I'm printing it off here. Okay, next. Which is the next thing? You have to display according to the output. First is the second is the packets received, third one is packets sent. You have to find out now how many packets are sent out. For that, I'm considering the P remain here, that is 10, and output rate. I'm applying minimum function on these parameters. P remain is 10 and output rate is what? 4. So if you apply minimum function, which is the minimum value here, it is 4. Now mini will take the value of 4 and that will be printed. So this is the packet sent. Okay, next we'll go to directly the coding part. Okay, so till here I explained. Is it visible? So till here I explained. Next, I am printing it off. Mini is nothing but the packet sent out. What is the next thing in the output? Yes, you can see here. Packets sent, packets left in the bucket. Packets left in the bucket. How do you calculate? P remain minus mini. What is P remain? That is 10 here, right? 10 minus mini is 4. 10 minus 4 is 6. So the new value for P remain is 6 now. And I'm going to print it off. That is packets in the bucket. Okay, that is will be printed here. And at the end, I'm printing the drop packet, which we calculated already in this line. So we printed the second at which the packet sent and received everything, that the number, second number, and here how many packets are received, and here how many packets are sent out, and then how many packets are there at the bucket that I'm printing here, and how many packets are dropped off. So all these values are printed after performing all this calculation. And again, I'm assigning drop is equal to 0. For the next iteration, the value of the drop will be changed. Okay, this is how simulation is done till I becomes lesser than n. Okay, and you can see in the output here, this is very important. You should concentrate here. See, I gave 10 as the simulation time, from 1 to 10, isn't it? Till 10, it's done. Simulation part is done. But you can see here, packets that are left in the bucket is 6. Okay, So simulation goes on till the packets in the bucket become 0. So this 6 will become, you're going to consider it as a packet received. Out of 6, the 4 will be sent out. The left out packets will be 2 and the drop will be 0. Again, 2 is left out in the bucket, right? Again, that will be considered as received, and the last 2 packets will be sent out, and the packets left at the bucket is 0, as well as drop packet is also 0. Let's see what is the code used to perform this calculation. So this is once the simulation time is done. So here, this part, this whole part is considered to calculate the left out packets after the simulation time. Here I'm using while loop, okay. P remain. Here P remain is what? The 6 that is left out at the end here. This 6. Okay. I'm considering that value. 6 is not equal to 0. Obviously. Is 6 greater than bucket size? Yes, 6 is greater than buckets. Sorry, 6 greater than bucket size? No. P remain is what? 6. Bucket size is what? 10. It's not greater, right? So come here. The same calculation what we did in the above section. P remain is what? 6, comma, output rate is what? 4. 6, comma 4. Find out the minimum. Which is minimum? 4. That will be the new value here. That is minimum. That I'm going to print it off here. Okay. Next. P remain minus many. P remain is what? 6. 6 minus 4 is what? 2. That will be the new value of P remain. That I'm going to print it off. This will be considered till P remain becomes 0. Okay. Then I'm assigning drop is equal to 0. Yeah, that's all. That's how the leaky bucket